19-year-old Kenia Monge was a fun-loving girl who regularly went out to have fun with her friends like any college student would. One night, on the 31st of March 2011, Kenya decided to go to a club in Denver. As the people of her age would normally do, she soon became a little too intoxicated, and as a result, the bouncers removed her from the club. Kenya was too drunk to remember that she had to take her belongings with her too. After walking for a while, a car stopped near her with a man inside who offered to give Kenya a ride home, but she never arrived home. Soon it became clear that Kenya had disappeared and might also have been murdered, and there was only one clue that could lead to answers related to her disappearance: a text message from Travis Forbes, the same man who gave her a ride. Kenia Monge was born on the 26th of January 1992 in Honduras. Just a year after her birth, her mother Maria left Kenya with her grandmother and moved to the United States. Maria herself was just 16 when she moved to the United States, and soon after moving, all her focus was on bringing her daughter, Kenya, to the land of opportunities too. While in the US, Maria met a man named Anthony Lee, or Tony, fell in love with him, and married him. It took Kenya 11 years to move to the United States, and when she finally did in 2004, her mother was happily married to Anthony and they were living in Aurora, Colorado, with their two children, Kimberly and Anthony. But Tony wasn't a typical stepfather. Tony loved Kenya like her own daughter, and she instantly bonded with him and started calling him Dad. She also got along with her step-siblings well, particularly Kimberly, who became her best friend. Although she didn't know how to speak English properly, Kenya was a bright student in school. After graduating from Cherry Creek High School with good grades, she got admitted to a college in Denver for a degree in broadcasting and moved there to live with her boyfriend, Louis Easton. As far as Kenya's personality goes, she was a kind but extremely fun-loving individual who had a lot of friends and an active social life. Life was going well for Kenya, with lots of fun with friends, love, and care from family, until one fateful night, it all changed. While in college, Kenya and her friends made fake IDs to enjoy adult life in clubs and bars around Denver. Since Kenya had never been in trouble legally, neither Tony nor Maria knew about her fake IDs. On March 31st, 2011, Kenya made plans with her friends to go to the Denver club and have fun like they used to do every week. Kenya shared a strong bond with her family and regularly updated them about her plans. But she didn't share everything, and this time too told her parents that she was going to a hookah bar. They already knew a bouncer at the club who let them in every time they visited. However, unfortunately for Kenya and her friends, the bouncer wasn't on duty that night, and the people on duty refused to let them in because of their fake IDs. So they decided to go to a nearby club and try their luck there. They managed to enter that club and were finally ready to have fun. Another unusual thing about the outing was that the friends Kenya had gone out with weren't the ones she would usually make plans with. In the club, she met a guy and started partying with him to the point that she became extremely intoxicated. And it wasn't just a few drinks, rather so bad that the bouncers removed her from the club around 1:30 a.m. During the process, Kenya didn't get a chance to take her belongings, including her purse, jacket, and cell phone. As for her friends, they thought that Kenya had left with someone at the club without taking her personal items. When Kenya didn't return to her apartment for the whole night, her boyfriend, Louis, became worried. It was the morning of April 1st, 2011. He also called her number to check if she was okay, but didn't get any response. Louis also contacted her sister, Kimberly, to ask if she had heard from her sister, but she hadn't. In the meantime, the friends she had gone out with also learned that Kenya never reached home. Kenya's mother, Maria, was the first from her family to know about her disappearance, and she immediately called her husband to let him know that no one had heard from their daughter since last night. Her parents started contacting everyone, including family and friends they thought might know about Kenya's whereabouts, but to no luck. At this point, no one knew exactly what had happened the previous night. Tony Lee, her father, wanted to know every detail about Kenya's activities on March 31st. So he pushed her friends whom she had gone out with to walk him through the events of the previous day. Almost all of Kenya's friends knew that she used to tell her parents about going to a hookah bar whenever she planned on sneaking into a club or bar. Although they were at first hesitant and scared, her friends eventually told Tony that they had gone to a club for partying instead of a hookah bar. Tony called the police to report his daughter missing, but the operator told him that they couldn't file a report until after 72 hours of her going missing, as most people in such cases normally turn up within 24 hours. When there was no sign of Kenya, her father decided to go through her phone, hoping to find something that would lead to her whereabouts. And that's when he saw a message in her inbox from an unknown number, which read, "Hey, this is Travis, the guy who gave you a ride last night. White creepy van. Did you get home okay?" Tony knew Travis might have been the last person in contact with his daughter, so he repeatedly called the number, but nobody answered. On April 2nd, a day after Tony Lee had tried to get in touch with him, he called back on Kenya's number. When Tony asked him about the events on the night of March 31st and how he met Kenya, Travis had a detailed story to tell. He told Tony that he was driving his car around 2:30 a.m. when he saw Kenya outside the 24K Club, talking to a homeless man. Upon asking Kenya if she needed any help, she told Travis she needed to get to her car, which was parked at another location. So he offered to give her a ride to the parking lot, but when they arrived there, Kenya couldn't find her car and asked for a ride home. The address Travis shared with Tony was of the apartment Kenya shared with Lewis. According to Travis, he knew the place because he had recently rented a bakery nearby. While Travis was driving Kenya to her place, she told him that she wanted to buy cigarettes, so they stopped at the Conoco gas station. Although the station was closed, there was an Asian man standing nearby whom Kenya requested for a cigarette. According to Travis, both Kenya and that man were speaking in Spanish while they walked off, and it was the last time he had seen Kenya. Tony sensed something was wrong in Travis's story, so he once again called the police, informed them about Travis and his story, and requested that they file a missing persons report. But his request was once again turned down by the authorities, on the grounds that it still hadn't been 72 hours since Kenya's disappearance. With no help from the police, Tony decided to call Travis once again, who said he was willing to meet Tony at the same gas station where he had left Kenya a couple of nights ago. Tony grabbed his 9mm handgun and left for the Conoco gas station despite his wife not liking the idea and asking him not to go there. When Tony didn't listen to her and left, Maria called 911 and told the authorities that she was worried for her husband because he had gone to meet an unknown man with a gun. Although there was nothing illegal in Tony taking the gun with him because Colorado was an open carry state, Maria was worried that anything could happen if Tony's emotions overcame him. As a result of Maria's call, 2 police officers were already at Conoco when Tony arrived at the gas station. Travis was also there and had brought a friend with him as well. One of the officers approached Tony and asked him to put his firearm away and wait in the car while he got Travis's version of what happened on the night of March 31st. Travis shared the same story with the police officer as he had told Tony over a call a day before. Travis seemed like a genuine and trustworthy person who was telling the truth, but one thing that didn't sound right to the police officers was why Kenya walked off with a man she had just met around 3 in the morning. While the officers were interviewing Travis Forbes, Tony went to have a look at his white van, the same vehicle he had mentioned in his text to Kenya. As soon as he got close to it, he could identify a strong smell of bleach coming out of the van. Tony immediately knew something was wrong, so he went to the police officers and requested one of them come with him to check it out. The officer accompanying Tony also smelled bleach when he got near the van. Although authorities cannot search any vehicle without probable cause, lucky for them, the numbers on the van were temporary and were expired by 3 days. The officers asked Travis's permission to look inside the van because of the expired numbers on the plate. He agreed and opened all the doors. Apart from the smell of bleach, the first strange thing that the officers and Tony noticed was that the rear of the van was extremely clean, with new carpet and the walls shining as if it was coming straight out of a showroom. However, the front was completely opposite, with food, paper, and empty cans. Everything spread as if it was a trash bin. Despite this, the police officers couldn't take any further action and couldn't search Travis's van without a search warrant. Before the meeting ended, Travis asked the officers to talk to Tony Lee alone. He apologized to Tony and even cried for not following through on Kenya on the night of her disappearance to make his story believable. 72 hours after Kenya's disappearance, on April 4th, 2011, the police finally opened a missing persons case on Kenya Monge. The FBI also got involved in the case, and on the day when Lee and Maria had to go to the police station to give their statements, they received a call from the FBI about their daughter's disappearance. Detective Nash Gurul of the Missing and Exploited Persons Unit was leading the investigation, whereas Detective Estrada was also there to assist him in case it turned into a homicide investigation. The investigation began with the person who was last to see Kenya on the night of her mysterious disappearance, Travis Ford, who was brought in for a formal interview on the 6th of April. It was a day after the investigators received the surveillance footage from the bakery where Travis was renting a space for his business. But during the interview, too, Travis's story didn't change, and he repeated it the same way he told it to Anthony Lee and the officers at the Conoco gas station. This time, he even added that Kenya left with the unknown Asian person. He went to see his girlfriend, Carrie Humphrey, at her home and arrived there between 3 and 3:30 a.m. When his girlfriend was asked about it, she also confirmed that Travis was with her between 3 and 8 a.m. However, when his phone records were checked and his location was checked from the said time, it was discovered that Travis never really went to his girlfriend's place. In fact, he was nowhere close to her home around 3 a.m. on April 1st, rather was in Keenisburg. One more thing that didn't match Travis's story was his routine the next morning. He told the investigators that he went to work around 8:30 a.m. According to Monica Pooley, the owner of Debbie's Bakery where Travis worked, he wasn't supposed to be at work on April 1st. Monica also told the police that when she went into the bakery on the morning of April 2nd, she found out that all the surveillance cameras had been turned off. Upon checking the footage from the time just before the CCTV camera went off, she saw Travis roaming around in the bakery at 7:30 p.m. What was unusual about him was that he was wearing long latex cleaning gloves. When the footage from the evening of April 1st was reviewed, it showed Travis rolling a large, white cooler on a cart in which he took into the walk-in freezers in the bakery. The cooler was closed with duct tape. After putting the cooler in the freezer, the surveillance footage showed Travis Forbes carrying a roll of carpet into the bakery. Travis went to his van once more and brought what appeared to be a bottle of bleach. After this, the security cameras were turned off. It was clear that Travis's movements in and around the bakery were suspicious. Since there wasn't any CCTV footage available either, the investigators decided to interview other business owners in the buildings around the bakery where Travis worked. One of the people told the officers that late in the evening of April 1st, he saw two men burning a 55-gallon barrel. He also said that a white van was parked nearby. Another man told the investigators that on the evening of April 2nd, he saw Travis cleaning a white cooler in the back of his van, which was parked behind the bakery. When Monica, the owner of the bakery, asked Travis about the smell, he told her that it was marijuana that had turned moldy. He also told her that the reason for turning off the bakery's surveillance cameras was that he wanted to change his clothes. However, Monica didn't believe him and told the investigators that Travis had frequently lied to her. Monica also noticed that Travis had a gash on his arm. When she asked him about it, he told her that he was attacked by a homeless man while he was sleeping in his van. The police searched the bakery for evidence related to Kenya's disappearance, but couldn't find anything. Since the investigators didn't have any convincing evidence against Travis Forbes or clues about what happened to Kenya or where she was, the police had to let Travis go. The authorities also asked the public to help them find Kenya and let them know if they found any information about her. In the meantime, the news of Kenya's disappearance went viral throughout the United States. The media also soon found out that Travis Forbes was the one who saw her last, which led to him giving several interviews to both electronic and print media. In some of the interviews, he became emotional while talking about all the things he could have done in order to save Kenya. But despite his frequent appearances as the well-wisher of Kenya and her family, the police knew he was hiding something, so they decided to do a thorough background check on him to see if he had any criminal record, and that's when the big breakthrough came. Travis's past was filled with crimes. At the age of 17, he was charged with breaking into as many as 16 homes in Fort Collins and stealing $15,000 in cash and other items. He had also been convicted of felony burglary and sentenced to 9 years behind bars. However, he was later ordered to join the military camp instead of serving his term in jail. But just 2 months into the camp, Travis was kicked out and placed on probation. In 1998, while on probation, he was convicted of criminal harassment and broke his curfew as many as 43 times. He also went to jail for throwing rocks at women jogging in a park in 2004. 1 month had passed and there was still no sign of Kenia Monge. While the police continued their investigation, Travis suddenly disappeared. This raised concerns and the detective working on Kenya's case started looking into him. On May 6th, another breakthrough came in the case when authorities in Denver found out that Travis Forbes had been arrested in Austin, Texas, on charges related to car theft. Although this crime had no connection with Kenia Monge's disappearance, it gave the authorities in Denver a chance to question him. The next challenge for the authorities was to have Travis Forbes extradited to Denver to try him for Kenya's case. After a lengthy process that took more than a month, Travis Forbes was brought to Denver on the 30th of June 2011. But just a few days after he landed, the prison charging him for car theft decided not to press charges, and the Denver police was left with nothing to keep Travis in custody. Despite letting Travis go, the authorities kept an eye on Travis and his activities. Soon after getting released, he moved to Fort Collins to live with his father. For 3 days, he was followed by the Denver police, but they eventually stopped surveilling him as he wasn't causing any trouble. But just 4 days after moving to Fort Collins, Travis did something that would shock everyone and become undeniable evidence against him. On the night of July 4th, 2011, a 30-year-old woman named Lydia Tillman was walking home after watching fireworks in downtown Fort Collins. Lydia didn't know she was being followed. and just when she was entering her apartment, Travis forced her inside and sexually abused her. But he didn't stop there. After raping Lydia, Travis brutally beat her by punching her in the face and smashing her head against the wall. Lydia tried fighting and resisting, but eventually gave up. Before leaving her apartment, Travis put bleach on her body and set the apartment on fire. Although severely beaten and bloodied, Lydia jumped from the apartment window and was immediately rushed to the hospital. Because of the bleach, there wasn't much evidence left for Fort Collins police, but they were able to collect microscopic DNA from Lydia's fingernails. On July 7th, Detective Jacqueline Shakely of the Fort Collins police contacted Detective Nash Gurul in Denver and told him that she suspected Lydia's attacker could be the same person who had disappeared Kenia Monge. In light of new evidence, officers from both Denver and Fort Collins police departments started surveilling Travis Forbes once again. His activities proved that the police were following the right person. Travis would spend hours outside bars and clubs, stalking women. In the early hours of July 10th, he was talking to a woman outside a club when an officer interrupted the conversation and asked him about his identity. Travis lied and told the officer his name was Travis Kennedy, and he didn't have his ID with him. Not only this, he also told the officer that he neither had a phone number nor did he remember his address. He was let go, but he reappeared at the scene 20 minutes later with a different shirt and a hat. Around 3 a.m., Travis started following another drunk woman when the police arrested him for lying to an officer about his name. Travis wasn't told that he was also being investigated for Lydia Tillman's case and was informed that he was only held for a misdemeanor. On July 11th at 10:45 p.m., Travis was about to post his bond when the DNA report from Lydia's case came and matched Travis's DNA from the car theft in Austin. Around midnight on the 12th of July 2011, Travis Forbes was rebooked by Fort Collins police for sexual assault, arson, and attempted murder. When the questioning began, Travis wasn't only asked about Lydia Tillman, but about Kenia Monge as well. On August 26th, Travis Forbes offered to tell the authorities everything about Kenia Monge's disappearance in exchange for a deal. He didn't want to go to prison labeled as a sex offender, and also demanded that the prosecutors wouldn't push for the death penalty. According to Travis, he and a friend first saw Kenia outside the 24K club talking to a homeless man and offered to give her a ride home. First, they tried getting Kenia a cab to her apartment, but when they couldn't find one, the three of them got into Travis's white van. Travis first dropped his friend home, and when he saw Kenia had passed out in the van, he tried raping her. However, she woke up and tried to resist. This is when he strangled her to death, placed her body in a cooler, and put it in the bakery's freezer before taking it to Keanesburg and burying her there. Travis then returned to the bakery and burned everything that could link him to Kenia's disappearance. Travis pleaded guilty to the first-degree murder of Kenia Monge on September 26, 2011, and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He also pleaded for the attempted murder of Lydia Tillman and was sentenced to 48 years in prison, which was to run concurrently with his sentence in Kenia Monge's case, marking an end to one of the most terrifying cases in Denver.